Speedrun Association, and to today with probably one of the most anticipated races of the entire league yet. We are... Yes. Okay, are we live? Test, test, test. And welcome back, everybody. Actually, not welcome back. I just did an intro previously, but the mic probably had some issues. I'm back now. Welcome back to Global Speedrun Association, now for real, with probably the most anticipated race of the leagues yet. Chaospringle versus NicroVeda. Two guardians of the world record, really, both holding the world record for such a long time consecutively. And I'm joined by Dangers, my boy, on that co-commentary. And what's up?
Hello, hello. How are you doing, Limcube?
I'm doing well. I can't wait for this race specifically. This has been hyped up for such a long time now. Once again, Chaospringle obviously now recently holding the world record consecutively for a pretty long time. I think Equan used to have it for around 3 or 2 weeks in between his streak. But other than that, Chaos has been standing on top for a pretty long time. But before that, Nicro, obviously, there was this short period of time where Nicro and Sweep would kind of trade the world records back and forth. But around a year ago, from I think March or April, all the way until summer, is pretty much where the reign of Nicro was untouchable, and he was the world record holder for pretty much the entire time there.
I think you're right, Limcube, and I think that Chaospringle is kind of the reigning champion as of this moment, and he has held it for probably the longest time in current memory. But I do think that NicroVeda has the most accumulated time at the top spot in this game. So this is quite the clash of titans, you could say. And, Nicro not being one to participate in very many races the last little while, it is definitely going to be an interesting matchup to see.
That is one of the main points that excites me about this matchup. Just seeing Nicro back in races. We are really not used to this anymore. Obviously, he already did have a previous race that he ended up winning as well. Chaos actually lost his first one, which is kind of surprising to me. He's probably the favorite to take the entirety of the leagues, just because usually he is very consistent. But last time he definitely got hit pretty quickly by some pretty heavy mistakes. His last matchup that he actually lost was against Stravos, and Stravos right now has 2 wins on board already, probably the highest point total in the league, 99, I think it is, for Stravos. And yeah, Chaos dropping that match, and this is mainly due to him making smaller mistakes and kind of having... I mean, it sounds harsh to say, but his mentality probably got affected by this quite a little bit. Looked like he got tilted of the mistakes he made, and that kind of snowballed into a situation where he made several mistakes, especially in the late game, so he wasn't able to completely recover from his mistakes and ended up only taking 12 points in that first race. So this is going to be his biggest chance to come back swinging.
I think you're absolutely right. From watching that race back, it looked like Chaos might have actually been trying to go for some of the risky things, and I don't think that's where Chaos really thrives. I think he probably wouldn't have been able to pull out perhaps a little bit more of a better performance in that race if he had just stuck with the consistent stuff, stuck with what he knew. That's what we know from Chaos, and he probably is maybe looking to do something like that this time.
Nicro having to deal with some issues there on that very first top hat that we do left side, and he's still able to actually get the jump up top towards Topper, but looks like Chaos is a full phase of Topper cycle ahead here. It's going to be taking that little lead going into Cascade. Is going to be happy about this one. But this is going to be a nice time for us to quickly go over the point distribution system in this league, because obviously we do incentivize winning. The winner of every match gets 40 points, boom, on their account immediately. Big shout outs to Flyomotive here with a little cheer supporting the league, supporting the channel. But there's also another pool of points, 20 points that you can get depending on how well you are doing in your race. The more you win by, the more points of that pool you will get. meaning if you only win by 10 seconds or less, the loser of the race will actually get up to 19 points from that point pool. If you want to see exact distributions of that, you can type in !leaks, find the SMO tab of that document, and look at the distribution. Nicro actually rolling into the water here, quite unfortunate, but make sure to check out that point system. It's very nice. It adds some additional depth and kind of pushes runners to go for harder strats, like that wall jumpless first moonskip that Nicro got very nicely.
Yeah, Kitten's favorite strategy in Cascade, as you can hear. She does enjoy the wall jumpless variation. Chaos actually going for it as well. You can see a little bit of consistency in both of these guys' parts here. Saves about half a second over the wall jump version.
Yep. Around that, and it's definitely way harder than going for that wall jump. Wall jump in that case, usually the safe bet makes the trick pretty much free as soon as you hit the wall in the right spot. But Madame Boodle coming up next. Chaospringle is still in the lead, building that up even further with Nicro's unfortunate FMS shenanigans there, rolling into the water. But that's not much at all.
Yeah, Chaos still holding on to a little bit of the lead, mostly due to the left side shenanigans on NicroVeda's side. Now, going back to the point system, as a runner, I can tell you that it has really changed the dynamic of how I view these races as a whole. You know, it really makes me kind of think about what kinds of things I want to go for, what kinds of things I want to pass on. If I've got a lead, do I continue to just like try and do the hard strats, do the risky things to build up some of the points, or do I play it safe to try and maintain the lead as best as I can?
Yeah, absolutely. And that was kind of the point that I was going to go over now. But now going into the later portions of Cascade, chest clip is going to be another thing that can potentially screw with these runners' exits here. Chaospringle already making his way over to the cliff moon and gets nice movement towards that. Both of them actually deciding to go for the triple jump version there. You can also go for a double jump. Chaos, a very nice height on that up warp with the moon. Very optimal fast chest clip. Super nice cascade from him here, even with the wall jump version. Nike will actually not get the clip and will cause him to lose a little bit of additional time. Chaos has been playing very well so far.
This chest clip is very deceiving. You know, that up warp does not mean necessarily that you've gone through. And I've definitely noticed a couple times in the past where even the moon that you get can sometimes be completely off the screen and you'll still not get the up warp into the out of bounds section. So just a little bit of trouble on NicroVeda's part. A little bit shaky through the beginning portion here. And now entering a Sand Kingdom. Now, I know that NicroVeda has been really kind of consistent through the beginning and has been playing kind of the choke game when it comes to his PBs. So we'll see if maybe he is going to just play the tighter lines and gain some ground on Chaos here.
Yeah, Chaos early game, by the way, very, very nice. Something that I actually haven't gotten to mention earlier, but this Cascade as exit looked very hot. I think he got like a 507, 508, which is pretty close to optimal. You can still save additional time. I think Danstar, who was another participant, obviously got a 505 today, which is, yeah, that's just absolutely crazy. But 508 or 507, I can't recall, is still very, very good. Very good for Cascade exit.
Yeah, 510, you're in the big leagues for sure.
So far, even though Nicro had some sloppiness on the other end, Chaos has been playing phenomenal. These mistakes that Nicro has been making weren't huge ones, just a little bit of sloppiness at left side and then smaller mistakes towards the end of Cascade. But he's trying to catch up now, going into Sand. Both of them still having respectable runs of for themselves. But let's see how this is going to end up going, because Chaos already has a little bit of a minor issue here, not hitting that ground pound spot, which occasionally still happens to the best of them, literally, as we see here.
Especially when you see the runners go for the spin pound variation that Nicro's pulling off here. You know, you kind of get a feel for where that spot is, but not when you have to jump towards it like that.
This is super scary, because what the thing that is happening to Chaos right now, is exactly what he has been struggling with in races. You see one mistake on that ground pound moon, an immediate bonk after this, and then really big issues trying to climb back on that ice spot. This might have been the perfect indicator that already some tilting has been done to his mindset there.
That's kind of the dangerous thing with having such a consistently planned route in your head, you know? If you play the safe game, if the safe game fails, what do you fall back on?
It's scary, and adapting on the fly like that, especially to something like this. Like, I can't recall watching somebody bonk on that arc wave for a long time. So it's really hard to recover from that on the fly. He tried to get back up on that ice pillar from the other side that we usually get on, and that is actually really weird. The properties of that ice pillar are super weird. Well, let's forget about this one, though. He probably just changed around the lead. Looks like Nicro has around a 10-second lead now, maybe around 8 or something. But he did get that first clip, first try. Chaos is going to be looking to do the same, and he is able to do so. But this is a double clip idea from both of them. So there's another clip to be had. Nicro not getting the second clip first try. Second try, this was close, almost falling there. Many people actually don't notice that, don't you think? But you can actually die if you miss that single clip that way that Nicro almost did.
Yep, and luckily the spawn zone is directly back at the Sphinx, so in this particular setting it wouldn't be the worst thing to happen. However, it is an extremely frustrating thing to happen. Definitely a reset point. You just kind of slip between the loading zone for the Sphinx room and the shifting sands that are hidden in the out of bounds area.
I'm not sure if that was just visible, but they got the moon at the exact same time. They also captured the bullet bill at the exact same time. It was just that Nicro captured it for the second time and Chaos for the first time. That kind of looked pretty cool.
Yeah, Chaos got that one moon disadvantage right now. Nicro just pulling ahead, probably about 15 seconds.
Yeah. Which is actually interesting to see. The Oasis, which is the place where we get the last moons, and in this case actually 4, is just a little bit far away, but once you actually get there, you gain access to some pretty quick moons. Obviously the ground pond moon on the little dune here, the bird immediately next to you, and then nodes, which are at this point in time actually done very speedy. Like the fastest nodes we've seen actually almost less than 15 seconds, which is crazy for that moon.
And it's, you know, very fascinating to see that these runners, with that double clip, both of them messing up the second clip in their Sphinx clip setups, but still managing to get the bird on a fine cycle. It just, the optimization of everything between the Sphinx clip and the Oasis just goes to show how early we're able to make these cycles nowadays.
Nicro globing in right now. Definitely any chances from Chaos to get a super sort of... Wait, what happened to his timer? Chaos with a sub 1 minute sand exit? What?
Oh my god.
Oh my god. Now, I'm not sure what happened to his timer exactly. I think we might be best off just...
Oh, yeah. I think the one just materialized from thin air. So
okay, I think he was able to... Wait, how did he do that? So we are either... No, we are actually not mirroring Nicro splits right now. I have no idea how Chaos saved that, but we are back on track. Let's go.
Things are well again in the land. He just must have noticed at the very last second there to kind of fix his timer. But here we are back again. NicroVeda going to be the first into Lake Kingdom now.
Oh, we are probably going to be seeing double lake clips in this one.
I'm going to say that's probably what we're going to see, yeah. Chaos definitely going for lake clip in his races. We've seen it already. NicroVeda as well.
Yeah, Nicro probably the first one to actually adapt the lake clip route into RTA attempts. So he is very likely to go for this. He kind of proved everybody that this strat is worth in runs, because he started saving 5 seconds on everybody else, and this is where people kind of started doing it themselves. So Nicro already setting up, gets Cappy to clip first try, very nicely done. He's really good at this actually. Is going to be getting the checkpoint, so he is out of there. Chaos not immediately having Cappy clip through that wall, and he also lost his camera set up there a little bit. I hope he is still able to perform the out of bounds movements, and he will. Gets the up throw, gets the checkpoint, maybe a little bit more sloppy than the version that Nicro did, but still totally fine. Both of them will be getting time save out of this.
Very interesting to see all the different setups that we have for this clip. Many different ways to make this consistent.
At the end of the day, it's all about just basically throwing Cappy at the right position, so you get him to clip, and then you can kind of roll through the wall yourself and get stopped by Cappy hovering there. But nicely done from both of them. We also are going to be seeing a double Joy-Con abuse here. Never mind. So I'm not sure. Wait, what is Chaos doing now? I'm not sure if he actually switched to... What? Okay, I'm confused. So usually runners switch to Joy-Cons, and I'm assuming he did. So he probably just got a normal motion control cap throw, which is something that's in the game for some reason. Like, you can just get a normal cap throw off of a motion control input. But snowboarding off of that, he lost quite a lot of time on that section.
Yeah, hopefully we're not witnessing a repeat episode of last race where, you know, things start to go downhill for Chaos and he starts to tilt and try and, you know, sacrifice some consistency for time. But it is looking like that might be the direction we're going already.
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely worth for Chaos to just... I mean, it's obviously easier said than done, but I don't think he needs to go push himself all the way. For example, one thing that I'm currently looking at is the potential adaptation of doing the tree route in Wooded. I know it is definitely pretty hard to sell these runners on going for this because it can definitely theoretically save time, but doing it, you have to do it right to save time. And this is something that I feel like Chaos might want to skip out on this one and just go back to his habits to be able to... Because I feel like if he just plays according to his habits and he just plays safe, he might get the better end of it. However, Nicro obviously at this point in time is such a scary runner. He's very active and he's looking to PB again. So it's a tough call. I won't make that call, but this is something that we might see them go for. I know Nicro has been going for the Piranha skip in runs, and I think Chaos has been as well. So we are likely to see it from both of them. But I'm not sure if it's the best point in time for Chaos to try. That's very unfortunate. Nitro would have been better off going for the old rock strat. There has to go all around, and the bunny kind of disrespecting him now.
Yeah, you can tell that this one doesn't really have a very solid backup. You know, when you go for PB attempts, a lot of the time you kind of run into this situation where a mistake like that might just be a reset button, and not knowing a proper backup can kind of be the detriment in a race situation like this.
Yeah, for someone like Chaos, and maybe not for Nitro because we know he has PB potential by like 20 seconds or something, but for Chaos, something like this would cause him to reset right now. If he was actually seriously going for a PB. His run is just too good right now. With the strats he's doing, losing that much time, he wouldn't be able to PB, which is crazy.
Yeah, everybody at this 100 level, you know,
surprised.
losing 5 seconds in a split is unheard of.
I'm surprised. Chaos is still gonna pull it off. He's still going to be trying to save that time with the tree route. Looks like he didn't get the maximum amount of boost with that uproot, but the uproot was there in time. So if he's able to perform the flower road skip just right, he should probably just save a little bit of time over Nitro. Over Nitro here, I'm very sorry. But Nitro not opting to do this strategy, so he's going to be still getting that story moon.
Interesting to see Nitro opting for the consistent strategy here. Chaospringle going for something that's a little bit newer.
Wait, I think he didn't clip. Yep.
Oh no!
I was about to say, like, he didn't even look close to clipping there. That is the second time that has been happening. Also, we are getting a confirmation by Chaos that he actually just forgot about the Joy-Con, so he just awkwardly was like about over the water there. But let's see, Rocklip first try. I'm amazed. Runners have been getting consistently at this, and this is a very major strat for races. Oh no!
Oh no!
That's actually the worst thing that could have happened there. I'm shocked.
That is definitely got a tilt. You really do hate to see that. He is maybe gonna go for the rock clip again. That's perhaps the only option he's got here.
That's still the better choice, but that is as devastating as it gets there almost. Oh no, he is
Almost
not super comfortable with this out of bounds movement. Okay, I'm happy that he's actually back on that little patch, because now he seems to be back in his natural habitat, basically. But him trying to go for that out of bounds movement that he usually doesn't do looked pretty painful and caused him to also clip back in bounds. That's probably around like a 1 minute time loss in Wooded so far.
Yeah, that's a really, really messy beginning to this Wooded Kingdom. He's going to be trying to his best to kind of pull the rest of this out. And, you know, you did see him go for the tree route as well. So hopefully he is consistent with getting around the Piranha Plant and avoiding the poison. And no more mistakes from Chaos in Wooded Kingdom, hopefully.
Yeah, the biggest thing is actually, if you make a mistake now, and in that case that would most likely be a death, you actually spawn at the shop. So that would probably just add another minute on top of the mistakes you already had happen to him. So this is going to be definitely a race for Nicro to lose almost at this point. It's not like Chaos is out of it, it's just going to be very hard. He needs to go full force to make this happen.
Yeah, and this is where that kind of mental game comes into play with the points. You know, what do I do? Do I continue to try and play consistently and hope that my opponent makes mistakes, or do I try and play it risky and make up some extra seconds?
That was so fancy. The Chaos doing the spin pon at the corner there, timing his long jump on top of the railing. Still gets the floor road skip, so that part very nicely done. Obviously has to deal with completely different issues in this wooded, sadly. It is going to be taking a big time loss out of that. We will be able to actually tell you the difference as Nicro is about to hit the globe here. But at least getting that movement just fine. That was pretty hot.
Yep, and not having to kind of back out and do the old wooded route. So at least he'll be going into the pipeway. Still, I guess, saving that 20 seconds over the very old route, but yeah, definitely has a lot of ground to make up here.
Yeah, the most important thing for Chaos is to reset, kind of like mentally reset, because this run is still so long, and even though he is behind by quite a bit now, he can't keep making mistakes, and that sounds obviously easier than done. That sounds like an excuse. Yeah, just play well now, forehead. But at the end of the day, that's really what it's going to come down to, because we know he does have the consistency, we know he does have the practice, and even though this would have just hit him very hard, this is not over, and he needs to kind of, once again, reset the mentality and just keep going. Nicro with a 45, pretty much roughly, exit here on wooded, so this is going to be our little cue for us to see what lead he's currently dealing with.
It's a pretty commanding one going into the mid game. We are approaching, however, the Lost Kingdom, and NicroVeda does have a little bit of a rough history with Lost Kingdom in the past.
So this is actually less than I thought. He's going to be globing right now, which is actually still less than a minute that he's behind by. I thought this would have been worse. Nike obviously with some mistakes in this wooded on his own, but that's not the end of the world. So for example, if Chaos just keeps playing very well now and Nike makes some smaller mistakes and then one bigger one, that would already be equalized. Obviously we still have Snow on our hands and Bowsers, and we've seen people fall off back recently. But that's actually fine. That's a pretty big lead for Nitro this early in, but not the end of the world.
Now, NicroVeda finishing up Cloud Kingdom here. One last phase. No real issues to speak of in Cloud Kingdom. I don't think we've really seen many runners stumble in the Bowser fights in this league so far, but we have seen some easier things kind of topple for top runners. A couple of the previous races have shown a 3-cycle wiggler, in fact. So, you know, just about anything is possible, even though these guys are on top of their game. Sometimes things still just go wrong.
Also, I've seen both of them lose a world record to a Bowser phase at one point, so it's not like it can't happen. But for now, we definitely want to be focusing on Nicro's Lost here, as this is, as you brought up earlier. Actually, also yesterday, Rhea getting hit by like 50 seconds there due to 2 mistakes at the very end. So this kingdom still hits hard.
Yeah, just about everything and anything that can go wrong has already started to go wrong in this league. You know, we've seen some Jaxi skip fails, we've seen some lost deaths. You know,
actually not sure about deep woods. Have you seen? Oh, and as you mentioned that Nicro falls down all the way, actually warping back, which is funnily enough probably not the best choice. He would have just been able to get 2 very quick moons before kind of intentionally death warping there. And this is something where this longer category knowledge comes in hot, especially like in this case he could have gotten 2 quick moons, intentional death warp. Like I'm not sure how fast it would have been, but probably still fast enough to kind of replace the stairs and like some other moon. When you already fall there, you might have made use out of that, but he's not opting to do that and just keeps going back for that old approach. But we see, like, look at this. This probably just lost him 30 seconds or something, and Chaos is already almost back up there.
Yep, NicroVeda grabbing his 2nd moon in Lost Kingdom. Chaospringle right on his tail, grabbing the mountain trail moon here and the butterfly. So this race is just about caught up all of a sudden, just like that.
Yeah, I'm interested actually. I'm interested if it would have been best for him to grab like Stone Cave and then warp out of it. This like on the fly adaptation might have caused him to save just a little bit of time there, but this is a hard call to make like on the fly. So he just reverts back to old habits, which is also just fine. That fall would have lost him time no matter what. But at the end of the day, Nitro actually has been running Darker Side at some point. This might have been a better backup. Doesn't really matter. This just basically causes us to have a closer race again, as Chaos is grabbing the Staircase Moon right now. Pretty much only like 2 moons apart, and these ones are pretty quick.
Yeah, leave it to the runners to keep things interesting, you know. We can't have any blowout races, especially between 2 titans of the game, such as these.
Yep. And going into Metro, which is arguably Chaos's strongest king. Whoa, okay.
Oh my goodness.
That was, oh no, it's not over yet. It's not over, boys. I'm not sure. No, that's not gonna work. He needs to like backflip against the wall, actually, like wall jump against the wall.
There we go.
Oh my
the
god,
camera
please
doing
make
some
it up
stuff.
there. Okay, he finally gets the moon.
Oh my
Jesus.
goodness. Yeah, the camera, not Chaos's friend there at all. Struggling like really bad to try and make his way back up the top of the tree, and you know, almost falling in the poison, but somehow managing to stay alive.
At the end of the day, he will still be making up time over Nicro. The mistake that Nicro made at the start of the game definitely hurting him more. But this almost got the race back in Nicro's favor by quite a comfy amount. Probably around 40, 35 seconds. I haven't been able to actually keep track exactly. I would be assuming around 35, maybe 40, as we start up Night Metro now. And once again, this is probably Chaos's strongest split as far as general performance goes. So if he once again is able to reset and kind of just play to his ability, he should be making up some time over Nicro here. That's at least what the statistics would be saying. But Nicro so far starting this Kingdom off well.
Starting strong, grabbing this Gritter Sandwich Moon, on his way to the next one. Chaospringle finally gaining control of Mario in Night Metro and on his tail. Now, something interesting to note about the league format that we have going on here. In previous tournaments that we've had with GSA, we've not allowed the racers to kind of stay in the call and keep track of their opponents, but with this league format, we actually do. So something of a strategy, I suppose, would be to kind of keep the call open and deafened to see where your opponent is at. Both of these runners opting to do that. I've actually noticed that a couple other runners like to play kind of in solitary and not really pay attention to what the other runner is doing. But perhaps just that knowledge of knowing exactly where your opponent is potentially a detriment to your game. Sometimes it can make you a little bit nervous.
I think it's definitely smart. I don't know how that exactly affected them in this race, but I feel like Chaos, just hearing that Nicro made that mistake and lost a good amount of time there, might have caused him to like sigh a little bit and be like, oh, okay, I do have a chance again. Just play well and you got this. Obviously, once again, getting hit by the weird properties of that tree at the end of Lost. But yeah, that can go either way. Then once again, obviously, Nicro noticed probably while being in this call that he built up a pretty strong lead before Lost, which might have also affected him. But I do think it's a smart idea to get as much information as you can.
Certainly. NicroVeda approaching his second phase of the Wiggler fight. Gonna be hoping for some good RNG here. Speaking of things that never happen, 3-cycle Wigglers. We have already seen a 3-cycle Wiggler in this league.
Actually, nice reaction to that. That pattern was not good at all. There's definitely better patterns than this, but the way he reacted to this, kind of got some shots in early, then waited for the Wiggler to like curl around, and as soon as he kind of unraveled again, he got all of the shots in and reacted well to this. The Wiggler was already coming to a stop. Optimally, you want to actually be shooting him entirely while he's still moving, but it was still done pretty nicely. Chaos making his shots right now. Hopefully, he needs to go a little bit away to be able to get the shot. Oh, I was actually scared. That looked like... Wait, what?
What is happening?
What? That doesn't make sense to me. That's
I've never seen that before.
Because I'm not sure if anybody is aware, but if you shoot a Wiggler part, usually the 2 parts next to that will explode as well. And Chaos landed the shot, but it looked like the Wiggler was already going into its whatever state again, and that caused him to reset. That was so weird.
Luckily, it didn't end up transitioning into like some sort of 3-cycle there. But yeah, very, very strange behavior on the Wiggler's part there. I was not expecting that. And he kind of just like froze for a minute until the head was shot.
Super unlucky. Chaos reaction here in the call definitely seems like he hasn't encountered that before. And is not going to be too happy about this. He was basically ready to defeat the Wiggler there with the final shots, but definitely didn't expect that behavior at all. Looks like we are almost back on the lead that Nicro used to have at the start of Lost, which is definitely comfortable for him. But as we see in this race, that can easily be gone immediately,
what,
kind of.
What a wacky race we have. This
Really?
is just, you know, you could never really expect much or much less from, you know, such a prestigious matchup as these guys. But, you know, the game is giving us a little bit extra.
Really does... really some weird things happening today that I personally haven't even seen. I'm not sure. I've seen some weird stuff with Wiggler. I'm not sure if I've ever seen that. Might have happened before, but if that happens, it definitely happens extremely rarely. Like, that's something people might have not seen before. But anyways, Chaos does have to deal with this at this point, and Wiggler is notorious for not only having RNG, but also behaving weirdly at some parts of the run. So just forget about it and keep going. Nitro already on his way on the mission to get the musicians on board, and he already does have the drummer on the team.
On his way to the basis now, going through Commemorative Park. Chaos, still a musician behind, but Day Metro is one of his strongest suits. He definitely, I think he has the world record for the partial game RTA being the MSSL section, if I'm not mistaken.
Exactly.
So we are entering Chaospringle territory here.
Yeah,
so Nicro is going to be playing as consistently as he can to try and maintain his lead, because this is where Chaos is going to shine.
This is definitely Chaos' strong suit. Obviously, so far, to be fair, the mistakes that he has been making, the big ones, definitely not kind of out of his control. Like, once again, the Wiggler thing is the biggest one so far, and he can't really... Like, he couldn't have really changed that. That outcome got kind of decided by the way the Wiggler works. He just wasn't ready for it. Anyways, right now he has been playing well. A little bit of sloppiness going from the bench friend towards Pauline, but other than that, this is looking clean again.
Yep, got to pick up the momentum, put the game's unfortunate happenings in the past, and just kind of barrel through forward here.
Oh, Chaos not getting the angle he wanted there. And this is just odd to see, once again. Might have still him being affected by earlier events, but mistakes like that, even though they are very minor, still odd to see Chaos make these. He still definitely has to kind of adapt to this league environment. I do think he will very soon, but so far hasn't been at the highest level of his play, I think.
Yeah, maybe just needs to warm up to the format. Maybe the pressure is a little bit of a different kind of scenario for him, but I suppose you could say the same about Nicro, who has been relatively absent from competitive speedrunning and focusing more on his kind of PB and his personal game. So, you know, you really don't know what to expect from these leagues yet. There's so much kind of at stake.
And also one thing that I want to make sure and want to make clear here is, even though we might sound like very harsh on critique when it comes to Chaos, all the reason we are saying this is because we literally think he's the best player in the world, which he also is, but we actually think he's the best player in the world. And if you watch his runs and attempts, usually he's just crazy good, crazy consistent. So it might come across as like we hype him up every time and then he makes mistakes and we kind of like talk badly about it. But this is mainly just because we think he's such an amazing player, and it's sometimes odd to see him make mistakes even, and it's obviously interesting to point that out. But right now, Micro is in the lead. Chaos has been making these mistakes. He has had some flaws, but just wanted to point it out. Actually wasn't able to look at the coin count for Nicro there. I remember him being pretty short on coins last time. I think he actually needed to go to the Rango room, as far as I know, last race that he had. But let's see now.
We'll see if he was able to keep that in mind. Both of these guys doing the late clip route, meaning that they are missing out on 20 easy coins with Rango, but Nicro does have a very comfy amount of coins at the moment.
Chaos was at 108, so he's also fine.
Yes, as long as there's no deaths in Snow Kingdom, even then these guys would be able to pick up some along the way. No issues there.
Alright, so wasn't once again actually able to catch the exact fade out on that Metros, but it's probably worth anyways to look at this at the ending of Snow, because we do have Snowdrum at the very end. And even though we haven't seen too many Snowdrum misses, we have still seen a couple failed setups, especially now that people try to go for the very fast setup. You can actually get kind of a fake vault. You still hit Cappy, but you won't actually get the vault animation, also locking you out of doing an additional cap throw. So we'll see. We'll see if that's going to be happening. Nice strat here for Necro to open that chest pretty early. Also skipping that wall jump. Nicely done so far in Snow.
Yep, that wall jumpless variation, very tight on your timing there. You'll only have like probably a couple pixels of leeway to kind of nudge yourself up and on the railing. Very well done by Nicro there.
For sure. Right, this snowy, blowy Joey room, kind of scary. We've seen a couple of big time losses in recent races. I'm not sure about the league yet, but definitely in recent memory as far as these tournaments are concerned. Nicro not having a big time loss here, just missing the initial spin pound on that secret moon. Oh, Chaos is going for moon clip. That's another thing that he's been adding to runs. It looks like he might have actually gotten it. Very nicely done. Going to be saving a little bit of time extra here, going for the ground pound roll over to the loading zone. Always very flashy to see.
Yep, pulling it off very nicely. Something that is still kind of in the works for a lot of runners, just because, you know, the inconsistency of the moon clip itself and like sliding down the wall does lose you a little bit of time if you miss it. So you really have to be kind of confident in your moon clipping abilities. Chaos showing no signs of struggle with that at all.
Oh, this is one of the strats that he has recently been basically having to add to his runs, just because his recent PP is definitely very, very solid, with not too many windows for him to save time, so definitely needing to add some additional strats. This is one of them, saving around a second.
Yeah, it is amazing to note just how incredibly optimized Chaos's world record really is. And yeah, it's going to come down to kind of putting some of the riskier and maybe potentially run-ending tricks in to really push that time down any further.
Both of the runners still being in the same sub-room, which is also a sign of how slow these moons really are. We are just locked into doing them. Feels Batman's now on any percent, but kind of need to do them. If you run other categories, these rooms become a lot more interesting because you actually get 3 moons out of them. Chaos also having some issues there with this movement.
Yep, not only do you get 3 moons out of the rooms, but you skip them on the first visit entirely, because usually opening up world peace and the moon rocks at the end of the game is what is the most optimal thing to do. So other categories tend to make kind of a mockery of Snow Kingdom and try and get out by using the Bound Bowl. And but in any percent, you just kind of have to deal with it.
And as we say that, Nicro performs a pretty solid Snowdrum right there. Gets that just fine. Also going for that very hot roll cancel jump into cap bounce strat, where you kind of roll cancel jump in that angle that you can just bounce on Cappy. Optimal, optimal, optimal. Very nice section from Nicro there.
Yeah, very flashy finish to the Snowdram there. And as Nicro leaves, Chaos approaches Snowdram for himself. Probably going to be going for that quick setup. Yeah, very, very speedy.
Okay. Nice. He made that by 600 miles, actually. He would have. It looked like he would have already been able to like walk on the platform without a dive. That was actually very nicely done.
Yeah, looked like he was going to land on the chest, actually.
Yeah. Hot, hot, hot. Okay, it's Seaside time, and Nicro has been able to carry that lead all the way through that mid-game portion. I guess you can obviously still consider Seaside mid-game. I kind of like saying late game to luncheon already. This is where the intensity kind of rises in very good attempts. I feel like Seaside already almost being there, it still feels more like mid-game. But as Chaos is skipping these final cutscenes, I was actually able to get my eyes onto one of these final cutscene skips there from Nicro, as I missed the fade out on the Seaside at a sand split again. I was able to catch the cutscene skips at the start of Seaside, so I'll be able to give you guys a very rough rundown on that time difference here. Looks to be around 40 seconds, a little bit less, more like 37.
Yeah, still a commanding lead, but again, we are going into the end game, kind of ramping up the difficulty a little bit. We got Luncheon Kingdom coming up, we have Bowser's Kingdom coming up, and of course Moon Kingdom. All of these places where mistakes can be very, very time costly. So just about anything can go wrong still. Nicro is going to be wanting to play safely to keep his lead.
For sure. Nigro opting for that Flower Rocket refresh, gets it nicely. His run has been very good now in that mid-game section, pretty much. Like also his Snow playing very nicely. Small mistakes nonetheless, but it's going to be hard for Chaos to catch up as this run gets closer and closer towards the end. But yeah, we are getting into Luncheon soon, we are getting into Bowser soon, so no lead is safe.
Chaos following up with the Rocket Flower refresh strategy here. Does manage to get the dive into the moon as well. So he's going to be on his way. Now, a little interesting thing that can happen here. Sometimes you get what we call waved as you approach that second Rocket Flower, and that's just kind of an unfortunate circumstance where you try and throw your cap at the next Rocket Flower, but the water just kind of sucks you right in. Luckily, neither of these runners getting it to happen to them. Doesn't waste too much time. We were talking about a second, but definitely a frustrating thing to have to deal with before you approach this fish movement. Both of these guys captured the fish, so obviously not too far apart here. NicroVeda grabbing the last moon that he needs before he is able to move on to the Luncheon Kingdom. Meanwhile, Chaos just grabbing a couple of quick moons in the end of Seaside before he's on his way. Globing at 38.47, so I'll be able to give you a nice estimate of just how far ahead Nicro is when Chaos warps. But Nicro still sitting comfy, still got that lead going into Luncheon Kingdom.
And Luncheon, obviously, probably the scariest kingdom in the late game as far as bigger time loss. Also as far as like PB attempts are concerned, because in PBs usually smaller time saves, like smaller time losses will hit you just as hard, and races these smaller time saves you can check them up pretty easily, but it just happens. And Luncheon in this, especially because of this reason, in races can hurt even more.
Certainly.
But Nicro is going to be starting off here with a dive instead of a spin pound. You can actually go for both of these strategies and will take a bonky on that Soul Triple. Let's see if is he gonna backing this up with another. This is not gonna work. Yep. I don't like backing up Soul Triple with another Soul Triple. I kind of like just going to that little ledge, but he is able to do it here on his second attempt.
Looked like he kept getting snagged on the little roof overhang there. Probably the most frustrating way to fail the Salt Pile Triple. Of course, you can also take a bonk and fall into the lava. I suppose that is not the friendliest way to go either, but we are in my favorite kingdom. And maybe not my favorite speedrun kingdom, but my favorite kingdom aesthetically, that being Luncheon Kingdom. Always makes me think of what's next for food.
That synced on that cutscene skip. Yeah, that's a good... That's a good transition. I'm about to get some food myself, but the thing that I wanted to point out, is there actually any point in the game where we are told, oh no, but where we are told what the thing that Chaos just fell into is? Like, I know there's like guides. There's like guides on the map and that stuff, and there's like the Prima full guide. Does anybody ever confirm what kind of stuff? What? That is Chaos just rolling on the sword.
I don't even know what that was. But Chaos randomly changing direction, Salt not treating him very nicely there. You know what? I don't know. I like the molten Pepto-Bismol idea, but that doesn't really sound like a very appetizing meal, I suppose.
I doubt that was Nintendo's intention too, because everything is like kind of food-like.
I mean, with all the food around, you are going to need to ease your indigestion somehow.
I guess.
We are not sponsored or affiliated with Pepto-Bismol, by the way.
No. I mean, the color is right, but I still like cupcake frosting or something, but while it's still boiling, or like melted sugar, I don't know. It just seems more accurate, but then again, nobody has actually ever confirmed this. This place is also weird. We have like veggies there and like oysters. No, is that oysters? I think there's like some mussels there. Maybe it's also It looks
it kind of
like
did
right?
look like seafood, right? It does kind of look like you've got prawns and some mussels there, but that doesn't make sense because they're huge. They're like whale-sized.
True.
You know, it is a Mario game after all. Not
Video
everything in the
games.
universe needs to make sense.
Yeah, video games is my usual excuse for this.
Yeah.
But so far, Luncheon has been looking better for Chaos, obviously, mainly due to the start. I mean, he also had to deal with some issues. He fell into the lava, and he had that mistake happen to him where he like rolled on the salt, which once again was kind of out of his control. But this is still going to mean that he is still on the better end of this. The mistakes that Nicro made at the very beginning of the kingdom definitely hit him more than those smaller ones.
Yeah, all things considered, Nicro still does have quite the commanding lead here. Entering the Forks room as Chaos adds the final ingredient to his moon soup here.
Forks coming up. We've seen actually a very costly death there yesterday by Rare, where motion controls just didn't really play according to his inputs. Sometimes you get an unintentional up throw there over the spin throw. Won't happen to Nicro. Nicely done Fork room. He's out of there pretty much. Chaos still has to go through this. Very nice camera manipulation-less version of that Podoboo cycle. But let's look at Nicro's... Let's try to look at Nicro's turnip clip at the same time, as they're both kind of captured in the Podoboos now. Chaos doing Forks, Nicro about to start turnip clip.
Throwing the turnip to the side of the platform here, grabbing the moon, and then spin pounding and grabbing it on the way by. And it's all going to be about his setup here. Goes for the throw. Looks to be in a good position here. Might be a little bit too far away.
Oh, what?
No, he's in.
That was so fast. He like got pushed into the moon. Normally you see people like clip and then do one single hop with the pan bro, but it looked like he instantly got pushed into the moon. Also, he did like a triple jump with the turnip, which looked super fancy. So that was one of the better turnip clips I've seen all week, all league. All week, all league, quite literally.
Yeah, I've seen quite a few turnip clips this past week, I guess. We have only been live with the league for a week and a half now, so... But... yeah, definitely one of the flashier ones. Chaospringle's setup looks fantastic as well, and he's going to be following suit.
Pretty nice, very quick spin point there from Nicro to gain access to the surrounded by tall mountains moon. This is the last single moon you get in Luncheon. Gets the last movement as well. Only one little jump here that he has to do. Gets the capture and gets the next capture as well. So he will be... I guess there's one more jump. I've probably never seen anybody fall there. It's time for the Commentator's Curse to hit hard, but I doubt it. Nicro will make that little dive happen. And then he's kind of off to Ruined.
Once you've captured that meat, you're pretty safe. I mean, you can fall in the soup, but you're just going to burn your bottom a little bit, and you can just kind of make your way back up to the multi-moon with no problems there. But Chaospringle going to be approaching the mountain jump here. Landing on that little nub of the rock always makes me nervous.
Yeah, and that will also be his journey through Luncheon. Not the best one he's ever seen, but it's not really hurting his overall time too much. Nicro is about to leave the kingdom here, though. This cutscene tends to be, I think, less than 50 seconds, more like 46, 48. He will get the fade out here. So I'm assuming we are still looking at around 45, 40 seconds here. A little bit more than 40, I'd assume, on the end here. Ruined doesn't really look like it would change that. I feel like if Ruined changes Elite, it changes it by 3 minutes or by like 2 seconds. That's kind of how that kingdom plays out. 3 minutes in the case of you like dying to the dragon. Chaos doesn't seem too happy there. Shaking the camera, usually the visual cue for tilt, but I hope he's fine.
Hopefully keeping it together. We are approaching the very end of the game here. Bowser's Kingdom coming up. Really do need to kind of direct your focus and make sure that this kingdom works out in your favor. I know when I get here on PB Pace, this is where things start to go very wrong for me, so hopefully these guys can keep it together.
Once again, those sync cutscene skips, we've seen 2 of them actually also at the start of Luncheon, while Nicro was already about to fight Spewed. But he's obviously already starting up that dragon fight, just begun the first phase. Little auto-scroller section happening here. So not too much to talk about as far as the actual gameplay is concerned, other than potentially Chaos's movement here. He actually does get a little bit stuck on the first step. But after that, this will mainly be about running around in circles, avoiding electrical attacks, and ground pounding heads.
And triple jumping while you're waiting for all of that stuff to happen, basically.
Yeah, definitely incredible gameplay.
10 out of 10. This is why we buy the game, folks.
Yeah, once again, definitely super hot casual experience to like play a Mario game and then suddenly, okay, there's a dragon. When I was picking up this game, I already got spoiled by like streams, like watching stuff of the game, so I knew this was gonna happen. But probably a big surprise for many people picking up the game once they got to this kingdom.
Yeah, certainly very bizarre. It doesn't really feel like it has a place in the game, but at the same time, you know, Mario's gotta kind of keep pushing the boundaries if it's gonna stay fresh, so makes sense. Makes sense in the same way that there's Molten Pepto-Bismol on the last level.
True. Can't wait for that Odyssey 2, baby.
Oh yes.
Are we gonna be fighting? What are we gonna be fighting next? How can you top dragons, dude?
And how much more real is it gonna get?
Yeah,
you know,
maybe it's like
cartoony
virtual reality. It's virtual reality. We're actually gonna be triple jumping in real life.
That sounds poggers to
That's
me,
the most logical next step for sure. Virtual reality Mario, literally triple jumping in your room, like cap diving. Oh my god, I'm working at Nintendo tomorrow. Yeah,
hide the cats, hide the pets, make sure everything's locked down and secure because you are going to be jumping all over the place, you're going to be knocking stuff off the walls.
Okay, and with that, our usual trash talk ruin segment ends, where we need to come up with some excuse to talk about some random topic to be able to get through this kingdom without falling asleep. I think we succeeded, and Nicro is already globing in, about to go to Bowser's here. Yep. No time for the said trash talk as we approach Bowser's Kingdom. Very, very tight platforming sections await us in this next kingdom. So, you know, hopefully keeping it together. This is where the time losses really do start to matter. This is where big time losses can begin to happen. You know, big death planes surround all of these islands, taking a fall, taking a bonk on a roof or on a wall, and you might be taking a death and going back to the last checkpoint. And Nigro's still holding on to a pretty nice lead. So that cutscene kind of showed up at 49-10. This will going to be our initial queue here going into Bowser's, because even though these leads will eventually not matter going into mech, it's still interesting to look at them more in this league format, especially because we obviously have this additional point distribution depending on how well runners are doing and by how much you lose/win by. So that's going to be something to keep in mind. So far, Nigro's approaching that first section of Bowser. This is probably the most chill one. Just some pretty tight platforming to do, and then a nice spin point here to close this out. Just waiting on that story moon. First cutscene showed up at 47 years, so still 37 seconds, pretty much the number that I threw around leaving luncheon. Yep, not completely down and out for the count on Chaos's part. As long as he plays clean, you can kind of hope for Nicro to make some sort of mistake in order to get back into this one. And again, the mistakes are going to be very costly, so playing clean is really going to be the key here. Yep. So far, Chaos does have nice movement going over to the Yoga here. Very fast spin point, probably saving some time over Nicro on that specific section. And Nicro is off to shards. This is the movement pack section. This is kind of going. This kingdom kind of revolves around. The first two islands are very much movement dependent. The next one is obviously the shop island where you just gotta dive once and spin throw. And then the next one is definitely focused around boss fights and the big climb going towards the mech. Yeah, really puts everything that you've kind of learned through your speedrun to the test in this kingdom, for sure. Really utilizing everything in Mario's toolkit. You've got Cappy homing throws, you've got dive backs, you've got triple jumps, you've got just about everything that you can do, all packed into one little kingdom. Absolutely. Chaos with pretty good charts himself so far. Very nice roll cancel jump, keeps all of the momentum, kind of boosts himself up. Really like seeing those big angled roll cancel jumps, or RCJs as we like to call them in short. And Nigro's still going for the rooftop climb with, I guess, the initial strat where you kind of like climb from the right side, from in front of the gate. Chaos is probably going to be looking to go for that capture warp strat instead.
Interesting choice from Nicro. Considering he does tend to go for some of the harder things just to really push his PVs. Maybe not entirely confident with that Bowser Dram strategy and going for the old one.
He's going to be going for that roll boost close to that section. That took a little bit, but I think he should still be able to actually get the capture bomb, and he will. I remember seeing this clip initially, Japanese runner Go Yuya posting this first with like a triple jump. That was done completely different. He did like a down throw. That strat was way harder than it actually had to be when he posted it. And I was like, yeah, we're never doing this. But this is pretty much part of most of the top runners' gameplay these days. Definitely still one of the scarier strats in bosses. Everybody on the highest level is scared about fading this, and this is very easy to mess up. But this is kind of where the game, I guess, got to. And also we're seeing, by the way, Harriet first versus Topper first. So the winner of this, which is probably going to be Nicro, is definitely going to seal the deal. I feel like we've been talking about this every run, but this is, we actually also brought up that this is the race between Harriet first and Topper first, and these runners hold on to their preferences.
Yep, it's kind of the big meme of the game, I suppose. Which one is better? Most runners opting for Harriet first, you know, that is the smart thing to do.
Yeah,
but
technically, we brought up how this is obviously not the smart thing to do. It's just what people used to do in the past, and we kind of like to fight about it. I personally am a Harriet first fiend. I fight for the Harriet first gang. So does Nicro. Has been doing this from the very start. And most early runners have been doing this because the camera kind of pans to that direction, so it just feels natural to go there. Also, initially, this might be the harder boss, and this is the one thing that you can still decide. If you want to do Harriet first, you can grab the checkpoint in between the two bosses kind of on the way to avoid the damage refill animation. But other than that, it's just personal preference, and Chaos kind of fights for the top of first. He has been doing this from the start.
And following up this boss section with another kind of tricky platforming section here. Everybody in this league, I think except for Ekwon, going for this Kratos Moon around the corner here. Optimal strategy here is to roll boost until you kind of get across the bridge and then initiate a triple jump to get around the wall. Chaospringle actually opting just for the single jump. Probably the safer way to do, not going to lose too much time.
Dude, I'm not sure if you caught that because we were focusing on Chaos, but Nicro almost just what is happening on this climb? He almost fell earlier. He actually was able to stand on that little spiky block up top because there's no spikes on there. I was about to point out how good that section was from him leading up to the mech. I hope he can shake off these nerves because he's about to fight mech, and this was definitely a super scary moment right now. Mech starting up. He's going to be going for, I think, a ground pound there at the very start to gain his initial height. Usually we do see backflips there, but ground pounds work as well. Actually, never mind, I do the backflip there. People usually do ground pounds. Anyways, he does get the 2 bubbles, and he's off to do the Harriet third strip, which is arguably the harder part. Bonking there is fine, he will still make it back up top.
And yeah, you really don't know what's going through his mind right now. Chaos did not get the climb that he wanted there. He's going to have to try and set it up once again. Having a little trouble with the bubbles. Now, even though
target acquired though. Hopefully.
Even though Nicro had some trouble with that, he is going to be going for the target acquired strategy here and does get it.
Very nice. Chaos is gonna have to pull off almost a miracle here. The one thing that obviously is still waiting for us in Moon is the escape section and the Bowser fight itself, which hides most of the times. And even though it's NicroVeda we're talking about here, who's very famous for losing 2 world record pace runs in Moon at the outside section. Just throwing that in there real quick. But Chaos still has to actually get Harriet third to be able to even have a chance at it. He's able to get to the setup point at the last second, will be getting the spin point. Nicely done. Target acquired, and Mech is defeated for both of them.
And they're still within the transitionary period here where we're grabbing the multi-moon, the boss is exploding. So while the lead is definitely in NicroVeda's favor, probably still looking at around 35 to 40 seconds, I would guess. There is still the Moon Kingdom, and like you said, chokes have happened here, especially in Nicro's history.
Yeah, for sure. Nicro actually not able to hit the globe there immediately, kind of opening the door, maybe wants to get some fresh air inside of the Odyssey before he flies over to Moon, which makes sense, to be honest. Gotta get in some fresh air before you literally go out of space. I mean, Mario doesn't seem to care anyways. He's going in there with like his like a suit, so it's not
Yeah,
like he cares.
How do they breathe up there anyway?
It's true, because like the dogs have like a moon suit on there, like an astronaut suit, but Mario just doesn't care. He just walks in there with like his tuxedo.
You show up to the moon in style, and somehow you can just you live, you breathe.
Absolutely. This is my boy. After all, he is determined to save Peach, so he just doesn't care about the moon's properties. But what these two runners will be caring about is the outcome of this race. Nicro is looking to make this happen. He's looking to get his second win. Chaos is potentially about to take his second loss. Something that we've definitely wouldn't imagine going into this league. And arguably the two racers that he has raced now are one of his toughest opponents, but this is still not really, we didn't really think this would happen. Anyways, another thing that is still interesting is the lead that Nicro is currently dealing with, because even though he's likely to win at this point, it's not impossible for him to still choke this, especially on this specific cap. This is infamous. He lost 2 runs on this before, but obviously not an issue. I'm sure he's extra careful now on that specific jump, but there's still obviously the difference that gets factored in here. So Chaos wants to play as good as possible to still get his maximum amount of points, even if he does take another loss.
Yeah, Nicro with a very clean outside moon section there. Pretty much textbook stuff from NicroVeda. Chaospringle on his tail. Now, again, something important to note here, NicroVeda, if he does manage to kind of fumble up something, even if it isn't a loss, it will affect Chaos and how much points he is able to accumulate from this. So basically everything is on the line on both of these runners' parts to just kind of try and pull as many points out of this as they can, win or lose.
So far it's looking good for Nicro. Still has been getting those Bowser hits. Is about though to start of the second phase here, and this one definitely one of the more scary ones. This is probably the most likely phase to drop a quick head capture. He will get it though, very nicely done. Even on one of these higher hills, which tend to even make this a little bit harder. But as long as you're very actively running this doesn't cause too many issues, but it's still probably the scariest phase of the fight.
Yeah, can confirm. You don't really want to take a damage boost because it kind of sets up your timing poorly. And you kind of just have to space yourself the correct distance away from the caps in order to grab the one that you need. Easier said than done though sometimes.
Second versus last phase here, this is something we've seen quite a lot actually in races. These bosses, obviously, it is probably mostly due to these bosses offering you a very like visible time difference, and sometimes these cycles just line up because they do take quite a bit of time. That's why it seems more occurring than it actually is. But Chaos still has to deal with this longest boss fight phase, and Nicro is off to escape. One thing that he definitely has to keep in mind here is play it safe in 2D, because that's probably the very last thing that could pretty easily lose him his lead. After that, it would only be a very, very big mistake that is very unlikely for him to make in like the Pillars room. We haven't really seen that yet in the race.
Chaos managing to enter the third Bowser fight with 24 seconds on the timer. What?
That's pretty odd. That's the run.
Sub hours free.
Dude, how did he do that? He literally just
magic.
That's crazy. I'm pretty sure we obviously have some issues again. Looking at 1 hour and 40 seconds right now for both of them. Timer transparency not playing out too well. This is sadly not the first sub hour run here. Nicro at the same time does get to D-skip without any issues. Very nicely done, very quick as well. So at this point, he's looking to close this one out, potentially causing Chaos to drop his second game of the league. Pretty interesting, pretty unexpected. There's only this pillar room kind of separating him, and in this case Nicro, of taking the second win as well. This is looking to be another pretty close one though, so he won't exactly get the maximum amount of points. There wasn't really much that he could have done kind of against that, because obviously Chaos's run is still good. He just made uncommonly many mistakes.
And, you know, combine that with the game perhaps not being his best friend in particular situations.
Sure,
Had a little bit of trouble with the tree in Lost, and then following that up with the Wiggler directly afterwards, doing some very unusual behavior. You know, just not Chaos's race this time.
Definitely not, but Nicro will get that last pillar to fall. It looks like he will just barely not able to get a 101 here. This is looking to be a pretty low 102 time, which is going to make it easy for us to actually see the exact difference, because I'm thinking Chaos also will still get that 102. It's just going to be on the higher side of the spectrum here, and it looks like Nitro will end this with a 102.04, almost getting that legendary 102.06 time, which is actually a very reoccurring time in this league. Also the time that Curbs and Strauss actually ended up tying on. But Chaos is also making these final stops, actually just barely coming in behind him. This lead has stayed pretty consistent throughout the entirety of that late game section. Chaos not able to make it up. Obviously, Nitro also playing well, which caused Chaos to not have really any big shots of coming back here. But this will be still a 30-second difference here between Chaos and Nitro, which is very nicely done. This will cause Chaos to gain 16 points from this race. Still hanging in there, 16 points for Chaos. I think he got 12 in his first race, so he's going to be at 30. Nitro, though, is going to be taking 44. Obviously, 40 off of him winning and 4 from that additional point pool. Very nicely done. Chaos dropping his second game, unexpected, but Nitro taking his second win. Nicely done. Both runners nicely done. Actually, super unfortunate stuff happening to Chaos. Obviously, something even like out of his power, like the Metro thing. But I'm not sure. We might have these runners actually drop into the call really quick. We are on a pretty tight schedule. Tons of raids happening. But Chaos, are you here right now? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hey, don't feel too bad, man. This is a league. There's a bunch of races where you can still come back. And you actually ended up getting 16 points here, which is very close to as much as possible. Quick shout outs here to Flyer Motive again, throwing in some bits. But let me hear your thoughts on this race. What ended up not happening, going too well? Obviously, I mean, lost, but I want to hear it from you too.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it happens. Like, I miss no clip sometimes in practice. So, I don't know. And then Rock Clip was just me not practicing like the OB for Rock Clip. And I'm just really proud that I didn't like tilt or like give up. I was trying like the whole time, and normally I'm
actually about to say that, like, if someone looks at this run, this is a perfect example how crazy you guys have gotten. If you look back, you actually ended up missing Nut Clip. You ended up clipping back in bounds. Everybody, like 107 people, would reset to that for sure. And then the thing in Lost happened, the Mecha Wiggler thing happened, like all of that stuff happened, and you still got a 102, which is considered an insanely like legendary time. I think 20 people in the world have that. So it kind of goes to show how much you guys have been pushing this game, that you're able to make mistakes like this and still come back with a time that is still amazing. So definitely shout outs to that. We also have Nicro joining us. We are pretty tight on time, but I obviously want to hear from Nicro, who's been able to get his second win already and ends up taking this. How do you feel? How did you feel about this race too?
I'm playing like pretty decent. Like obviously once I'm in the lead, it's just like you just gotta play consistent. But I did definitely get lucky that my two opponents did miss Wooded or Nut Clip. So, you know, I guess you gotta take those. Just kind of played again. I kind of toned down some strats near the end, I guess, because I don't know. I just know what I needed to do once I was like ahead so much.
I'm actually interested if you were aware how the race was kind of unfolding as you came into Wooded, because you decided to not go for that tree. I'm not sure if that's something you like haven't been adding yet.
Yeah, well, my last race I didn't do tree, mainly because the when you're going to do flower road skip, like the railing jump, I don't know, I just feel like it's just not worth the risk in a race.
Chaos actually got a pretty good one in this race, but yeah, looking back, you played pretty well. Once again, pretty decent. Actually, very well in my opinion. The one thing that is obviously
pretty solid.
Yeah, like going from, I guess, the end of Metro to like pretty much the final capture was very solid. The one thing that is worth pointing out is, I guess, Lost happens to the best of them, like that butterfly thing. I was kind of theorizing if you might have been able to get like the 2 darker side moons there, then maybe do some on the fly routing shenanigans, but that's like a very hard call to make while it's happening.
In runs, I always reset there, so I had no idea what to do other than warp.
Might have barely been better. But it seems like we are definitely on a pretty tight schedule. There's a lot of more action happening today. We also have another Odyssey race actually coming to us later on between Lil Aggie and Fur, and we are going to be having Tischl and me on the mic. But for now, quick intermission going into Mario Kart Double Dash Time Trials, a race between Megamad and Ultimark. So you guys don't want to be missing that. Make sure to follow the channel. Make sure to follow the runners. Thank you so much for chilling, and see you guys around very soon.
GG's Chaos.
GG.